know what gets me? The more you look into the real American history, the real causes of wars, you find the same people all the time. DuPont, General Motors, Ford, Colgate. All these major corporations back in the 30s tried to, by force, take over the United States government completely. And they wanted to institute a dictator. So they weren't looking at the government going, wow, they're really doing this wrong. They're destroying the Republic of the United States. They were looking at it saying, we want total control, just like kings and queens used to have in Britain, and we're going to do that here. But like I've told you before, a guy named General 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗱 put a stop to it. And what did they do to him? They made him look ridiculous. They made him look totally ridiculous. The Bush family, Prescott Bush, Skull and Bones members, both of his sons, his son and his grandson, Skull and Bones members. Two of them became presidents. One was a president during 9/11. The other one was just cutting his teeth when Kennedy got killed. And when you drive around America, you see places like the DuPont Parkway. You see places like the George Walker Bush Memorial this and Memorial that. And places like real people that tried to do real good, like Martin Luther King, another guy that they killed. Go to Martin Luther King Boulevard in any city, and usually, almost always, it's a terrible place to be. It's poverty, gang members, crime, guns, so forth and so on. These people have been ruling this country secretly for the longest time. And it amazes me how people still can't figure out to this day that they're going to make an enormous move again. These are the same people behind the Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, Vietnam, World War II, the sinking of the Maine. They've been behind everything. If these elitist scumbags didn't exist on this planet, we'd probably have a pretty decent planet. They're behind everything. And nothing ever happens to them because all the politicians are placed in place. If somebody comes along and wants to be a selectman or a representative and he wants to do good for this country, something happens to him. Something happens to him, one way or the other. Whether he's found with a dead hooker or child pornography, so, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. They weed them out, they blackball them, they pressure them, one of the three things. I was just behind a car, and the guy said, I was in the Gulf War, I was a Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. And then he had stickers that said, don't mess with my president, and he also had a Trump sticker. I understand people joining the military thinking they're fighting for their country, but if you look back, look what happened on 9/11, and look what the response was. We went straight to Afghanistan and secured the heroin. And then magically, the United States suddenly had a heroin epidemic like it never had before. Do you know where that heroin came from? It came from the fields in Afghanistan that the Taliban they weren't letting anyone grow poppy. But once we got there and secured it, the heroin flowed freely. You know how everyone ended up on heroin? Because they were taking DuPont Percocets, and then DuPont was nice enough to come out with OxyContin, which was one molecule different than pure heroin. And then people were thinking to themselves, these oxys are too expensive and hard to get, I'll just go to heroin because it's absolutely everywhere. When you join the military, all you're doing is going to another country because we've been at war my entire life, no matter what. We're going to another country and securing their sugar for Coca-Cola, oil for BP or Shell or Exxon, or heroin for the CIA. They killed Kennedy so severely, they could have just blew his head off. But they did it because he was going to break up the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA was never meant to be used in the borders of North America. And yet the CIA does whatever it wants. It supersedes all branches of government no matter what. They do what they want. They go to other countries. They do whatever they want. And another thing, I'm looking at a troop carrying helicopter going by right now. I've never seen so many military on the streets of America and people have no problem with it. Since 9/11, they forced patriotism down your throat, even though it's impossible for two buildings that are 110 stories apiece to fall in 10 and 9 seconds, respectively, and then another building to completely fall down that didn't even get hit by a plane. All of it doesn't make any sense. But when you own the media in all forms of magazines, the media is everything. Everything you see, hear, and watch, and read, they own. It used to be called the Fourth Estate because it kept government in check. But not anymore. They've made it so that people are either so patriotic or so desperate for a job, the military seems like a good idea. A country should be fearful of its military getting too big. In the United States, we root for them like it's a sports team. You see what I mean? It's just amazing to me. Everywhere you go, especially in D.C. and up, all you see is Lyndon B. Johnson, somebody that had a huge hand in getting Kennedy killed. You know, Memorial Bridge, DuPont Parkway, George Herbert Walker Bush, CIA Intelligence Memorial. It's just amazing to me. It's amazing that anybody even thought it was a good idea to put a CIA guy in charge. And it's no coincidence. He was the first one to say the New World Order over and over on national television. I guess that's it. That's the end of my rant. At any rate.